Okay, and this is my last page, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that. So through, let me go to the beginning. The Mughal Empire makes it possible for the transportation of precious goods across long distances, with the transportation of disease present, a welcoming environment for these diseases, and a power vacuum in the Mediterranean. A decline begins as the city-states of Venice and Genoa undermines the strength of the Christian church and had a huge impact in its belief system across the country by embracing the idea that death being inevitable, death was all around them, and they begin to explain the world all around them. So through this modern and Eastern practices of medicine, through the fusion of Indian and religious superstitions, a cure to ailments begins to replace the emergence of this exchange with Europeans and the English monarchical hand of corruption of banking systems, which is a veil on their systems of governance, decides to reemerge and reestablish this nation state. This loss of faith creates and constraints the foreign relations and the trading empires. The Chinese remains a global superpower. The region is flourishing and has become prosperous after the demolition of the sites of previously agricultural land takes a new shape into the Indian culture and playing field. The emergence in this settlement of the warrior state treaty signed after the war. So this concept is further explained in art through the thematic, dually significant statue of one of the three Buddhas, Buddha Shakyamuni from the Chola period, previously discussed in the text, to be dated about 12th century. Nagapattinam, a pivotal part in the southern coast of India, considered to be this day a Mecca for specific sites of agricultural ruins by the housing space for artifacts of the time not accessible from any other city. Based on this religion's sacredcy, these relics contain, as well as the explicitity and dignity that the Mughal Empire attempts to preserve within the confines of the methods of business. So these methods of business relations through India and in the Nagapattinam port of China, the control of this port by China, the judicial court head of France, and its global network. So this network is further seen in history depicting the statues from this era of religious importance. One of the world's greatest superpowers in its relations with Europe. And this increased travel, this is a direct quote, and increased travel in Europe itself not only stimulated interest in nature, but opened up to the West vision of this, quote, kingdom of man, end quote, upon earth. Much of Bacon's imagery was borrowed from the geographical discoveries. He aspired to be the Columbus of the new intellectual world, to sail through the Pillars of Hercules, the symbol of old knowledge, into the Atlantic's ocean in search of new and more useful knowledge. Bacon, however, failed to detect the coincidence of the scientific revolution with the commercial prosperity and the rise of the middle class. So Marxist professor Hessen greatly oversimplified when he wrote that Newton, and this is a direct quote, Newton was the typical representative of the rising bourgeoisie, and in his philosophy he embodies the characteristic features of his class, end quote. So the technological, they pursued this truth for it. Basically, that would be the conclusion of what I have written for my pandemic studies text. You're more than welcome to add as much context to yours in regards to what's taking place. I am going to make sure I don't have a loose page here anywhere. Doesn't look like I do. Alrighty, so that is all for me.